Welcome to another DragonLance Saga Order of Ascetics news episode. It is Bakukul Frost Cult, this 26th. My name is Adam, and today I was sifting through the Iconic Chronos, and I ran across some interesting news bits, so I thought I'd bring them to you and share them. That's right. I just filter myself through the Iconic Chronos like every day. Is that what you guys do too? Cool. Well, I would like to take a moment and thank the DL Saga YouTube members and Patreon patrons and invite you to consider becoming a member or patron by visiting the link in the description below. You can even pick up Dragonlance media using my affiliate links. Now, you can tell that I'm pretty excited about this new anthology that I'm putting together, and I'm calling for contributions to it. So an anthology is a series of short stories, and it is a DL Saga, not a Dragonlance anthology. So does that mean that you can use Dragonlance as a word? No, because Dragonlance as a word is copyrighted by Wizards of the Coast, justifiably so. But the world itself is not. And so fan fiction is something that we are allowed to explore as far as I have been able to discover. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm putting out a fan fiction DL Saga branded anthology. And if you would like to contribute to it, you are more than welcome to submit either your intent to submit notice, letting me know basically what it's about and when do you think you'll have it done. Or if you already have a fictional story done up, go ahead and submit it. And as soon as I have enough that I believe are, enough to put together this anthology collection, then I'll let everyone know no later than March 1st. Where is it? 2026. I'll let you know if you have been selected to be a part of this. So for those who do contribute, of course, this is a test run anthology. It's never been done before, and so I need to see whether it has any legs or not. So I'm going to be giving you guys print versions and digital versions of the book, but I'm not going to be paying anyone for the stories. I think you can understand that without knowing if it's going to have any legs or not, I'm clearly not going to be forking out a whole bunch of money to a bunch of contributors whom they never may see the light of day. So instead, we're working on, of course, the love of the world and the desire to get your work out there and published. So that being said, March 1st, 2026 is when I'll let everyone know. So if you submit something on March 2nd, you're guaranteed not to be in it. There's also some other stipulations in here. So if you are interested, please visit dlsaga.com/contributors. It is right here under the About tab, Contributors, and it'll take you right to the page, and you can, of course, go through and check out everything you need to in order to do that. All right, there's also a couple things that I want to talk about benefits for membership and being a patron on Patreon. Because, of course, I mention it every single episode, and some of you who may not have decided to become a member as of yet may be wondering, well, what's the point? What do I get out of it? Well, aside from my eternal gratitude, which is significant, you also get weekly readings that are just member only. You get monthly downloads, which are member only. You have Discord sections in my Discord server that are just for subscribers and members. And then you also have discounts on any merchandise through either the Teespring store that I put up, but also in my own personal dlsaga.com store. Basically right now it's just the bookmarks, but the bookmarks are dope as hell. And I can't imagine why you wouldn't want a bookmark for the Dragonlance books that you read, right? And of course, I'll be sending out a nice, nifty little bookmark for every contributor in their book. And I'm thinking about doing book plates as well. And who knows? We'll see where it goes and what we're able to accomplish. But for now, I'm just at the point of accepting submissions and letting you know about membership. All right. So with all that said, let's dive into some news, shall we? First and foremost, we got some Dragonlance news here. Now, this is D&D book confirmed for February 2026 is one you don't want to sleep on. This is the the Devil's Due Publishing comic book release, and there was only one of them of Legends, but it was a good one. So the Dungeons & Dragons multiverse always seems to be expanding, or at least circulating, and the last half-decade of releases has seen the return of classic settings like Dragonlance and even Greyhawk, thanks to the 2024 DM's Guide. Even with the Forgotten Realms still getting most of the love, there has been some great opportunities to return to other settings in some capacity. With recent release of Eberron, Forge of the Artificer, almost every major setting has gotten some kind of update for 5e over the past 3 years, which is pretty nice to see. And that's not even mentioning D&D novels and other mediums. Now, thanks to a new book in February, fans of the Dragonlance can get their hands on 3 fantasy novels wrapped up in a nice collector's edition hardcover. Now, this is not new to us Dragonlance fans. We knew this was coming. We've been waiting for it, and we've even talked about it and the chronicles which preceded it. Of course, this is Dragonlance Legends Collector's Edition, which is, in fact, coming very, very soon. So, Penguin Random House is releasing a Collector's Edition for Dragonlance Legends, the second trilogy from authors Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman. This edition comprises all 3 of the novels Time of the Twins, War of the Twins, and Test of the Twins. The Collector's Edition releases on February 10th, 2026. And it has an MSRP of $40. Considering it's 3 novels in 1 hardcover and over 1,100 pages, it's not a bad price at all. Why Dragonlance Saga is such an iconic D&D setting? Well, Dragonlance has always been one of my favorite D&D settings, and the books by Weis and Hickman have been a huge part of that. Thankfully, Dragonlance has seen a bit of a resurgence in recent years. Dragonlance Destinies finished up a new trilogy of novels in 2024, and on the tabletop side, Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen returned players to Krynn during the time of the War of the Lance in 2022. A corresponding board game, Dragonlance Warriors of Krynn, was also released. Both I have complete actual plays in as one singular campaign on this YouTube channel. So if you're interested on how I approached Shadow of the Dragon Queen or the Warriors of Krynn board game in a VTT, a virtual tabletop situation, you can go ahead and check that out. And of course, that is also a member benefit that I have provided. I took literal photos of every single game piece, trimmed them up, and put them all into a VTT. And that's what I used in order to actually play the actual play, live streaming it to everyone at the same time. Dragonlance was always a good setting. Okay, I already did that point. But the books by Weis and Hickman moved it into iconic territory. The original trilogy built off a fellowship mechanic presented in Lord of the Rings while giving us well-written characters with actual depth. It brought the world of Krynn to life. Few D&D books since have managed to capture that spirit of going on a quest with a party in quite the same way. And that's why it's all the more exciting to see Dragonlance Legends getting its own collector's edition next year. With other new Dragonlance novels on the way, this hopefully means we'll also see additional Dragonlance books over the tabletop side of Dungeons & Dragons as well. Only time will tell. Well, I will tell you this, Dragonlance Nexus is putting out a whole host of Dragonlance 5e gaming materials set from the Age of Might to the age of after the War of the Lance and even after the Third Dragon War. So there's all sorts of really interesting stuff that they have put out. So if you are a 5e devotee and you want to play some Dragonlance in that setting, check out Dragonlance Nexus's content. Because on DM's Guild, it is absolutely worth it for those who love 5e. If you're like me and prefer more of an original traditionalist approach, meaning I like playing the modules and the individual adventures or scenarios in the era of the game that as they were released. So, for example, the DL series, play it in AD&D, love it. There's a whole series of Taladas and Krynn Ansalon specific adventures in 2nd edition, which are all there to be played. Go to DM's Guild or Drive-Thru-RPG. You can use my affiliate link. And then also there's 3rd edition modules that Margaret Weis Productions / Sovereign Press released, and they're dope as hell. Like, they're really, really good. So you can play a ton of really epic third edition Dragonlance stories in, of course, third D&D 3.5 edition. But if you like Saga System, I've got a playthrough of Saga System on this channel. You can also get all of the Saga System supplements, and you can play the Saga System online. That's how I did my actual plays, all through VTT with the Fate deck and everything. So, and again, that is also a benefit of members of the Patreon and Whitestone Council tier. So, Dragonlance is alive and well, regardless of what Wizards of the Coast is going to be doing, because us fans are what keep it alive, regardless of what the IP holders are doing. And quite frankly, everything that they're doing in this edition does not fit the tone of Dragonlance as we have known it for the past 40 years. And that's unfortunate. But I'm hopeful because we did have Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman and even Joe Manganiello show up to the WotC headquarters. And so they're planning something, who knows what that is. But hopefully it's going to be something that's genuinely Dragonlance in tone and vibe. And hopefully everyone loves it. All right. So let me know, are you excited for this Legends Collector's Edition? We know that there's not a whole lot extra in it, but it is something that's coming, and it's so, clearly I need to talk about it. We've got literally less than 2 months before it hits. So I'm not going to actually be picking up on a release. I'm going to wait for it to drop its price because I already own the books in multiple formats. All right. Next up, dedicated Dungeons & Dragons fan bakes a playable gingerbread dungeon for their Christmas one-shot. This is awesome. I love the idea of this. A custom Christmas tree-shaped dungeon made out of gingerbread is no easy task, but one Dungeons & Dragons DM committed anyway. Christmas is a time of goodwill, being merry and gorging yourself on all your favorite foods. No Dungeons & Dragons game is more festive than the one run by Washington D&D fan Jenna, who baked an entire battle map out of gingerbread. Jenna's level 7 one-shot was a pre-written D&D adventure from DM's Guild titled How the Lich Stole Christmas. The layout of the dungeon already resembled a Christmas tree, but Jenna decided to take it one step further with her baking buildings. We had joked about doing it for years at various D&D Christmas parties, they tell Wargamer. Jenna, 55, an old homemaker, has admittedly never baked a gingerbread house before. However, she wasn't about to let that small detail spoil the vision. It was a learning experience, they told Wargamer. Jenna had to template the structure from scratch to make the dungeon she planned to run. I used paper to template, but the DM's Guild module Christmas tree-shaped dungeon had many repeating shapes, and the soft template was too easy to mix up, they explained. I had to fill in with a few graham crackers. I don't really enjoy rolling out dough or cutting out templated shapes by hand, she explains. You need to leave some scraps on the edge after cutting to prevent spread. Then recut the lines when warm. The gingerbread was pretty rigid, so that was difficult, and you need to work quickly while it's still hot. I baked a flat base in 3 parts, Jenna said. Then, after, learned that most gingerbread house builders used a foil-wrapped foam board, which would have made things easier, less time-consuming, and more mobile. Royal icing is a steep learning curve, she adds. Mine was structured sound by more like working with caulk than icing, so busting my piping bag and got pretty messy. Jenna recruited their husband and one of the players to decorate the set before play began, and they tried their best to hide my mess. The finishing touches included gingerbread trees from an IKEA gingerbread kit, Nico wafers on the bottom of regular plastic miniatures, and gummy bears that represented captured children, aka, Jenna tells Reddit, were eaten by the players after being rescued. Brutal. That's called cannibalism, you monsters. Despite the trials they faced, Jenna was absolutely take a second stab at gingerbread dungeons. The response alone seems to have been worth it. My players loved it. It added a lot of joy to our annual D&D Christmas party, she said. And the 9-year-old son of 2 of our players had just started playing D&D in summer camp, and they brought him along. He was over the moon and very excited that he got to eat it after the game. It was just very playful and whimsical and smelled amazing. Next year, I plan to grab some pre-baked gingerbread kits and IKEA gingerbread trees and kit bash a battle board on a foil-wrapped foam base, Jenna tells Wargamer. This means they can focus on decorating and eliminating templating, rolling and hand-cutting the gingerbread. I might try to bake just a few turreted, curved custom pieces for towers, she adds. We'll see how ambitious I feel. The Dungeons of Christmas yet to come might feature pop rock mines, candy Lego caltrops, and chocolate treasure chests, Jenna says. I'm thinking a full table battle board with 2 forts, a gingerbread tree, forest, and maybe an isomalt frozen lake. One fort will be decorated with peppermints, and the other with colorful candies like gumdrops, so they're visually distinct. Jenna also has dreams of creating more Christmas-themed one-shots, from Capture the Candy Cane competitions to encounters with a candy eyeball beholder. Whatever the future holds, we sure hope it's tasty. That's pretty awesome. I mean, just look at this. It looks fantastic. I mean, it looks, amateur, but that's part of the fun. And of course, it's just for this little one-shot, so who cares? Hey, Justin, thanks for tuning in, man. I think this is a lot of fun looking. And I'm a big gingerbread fan anyway. Like, I think gingerbread's delicious. All right, let me know what you guys think. Is this something that you would try to do on your own? Gingerbread can be pretty tricky, especially with the frosting and everything. And that's why most people use kits, because it takes out a lot of the pain points. But still pretty cool. Lots of fun. All right, let me know what you think. And then we have the next news article. Baldur's Gate 3 has a new rival coming early, 2026. When Baldur's Gate 3 launched, it did more than dominate sales charts. It changed expectations for what a modern role-playing game could be. Deep reactivity, faithful tabletop mechanics, weighty choices, and cinematic storytelling combined into an experience that felt once in a generation. For many players, it also felt final. How could anything follow this? How could another studio step into the shadow of a game that seemed to redefine the genre overnight? Yet, the CRPG space has always thrived on ambition and iteration. Long before Baldur's Gate 3 became a household name, smaller studios were quietly building their own interpretations of Dungeons & Dragons. These games did not have a blockbuster budget or cinematic motion capture, but they understood the rules, the dice, and the joy of tactical problem solving. One of those studios is now preparing the boldest step moving forward yet, and it may arrive sooner than many expect. Solasta 2 is poised to be the next big Dungeons & Dragons-inspired game, and I can't wait to see how it compares to Baldur's Gate 3. Solasta 2 is the next big Dungeons & Dragons role-playing game. Solasta 2 enters early access on March 12th, positioning itself as one of the most anticipated Dungeons & Dragons role-playing games headed into early 2026. Like Baldur's Gate 3, it embraces an early access model that invites players into the development process rather than waiting for a finished product. That approach proved crucial to Larian Studios, and Tactical Adventures appears ready to follow a similar path. I gotta be honest with you, these look weird. It looks almost claymation or something. Look at the structure they're standing on, and then these two on these two ends on the right. They just look very odd for computer generation. Hey, Chris, how you doing? The original Solasta, Crown of the Magister, earned a loyal following by doing something surprisingly rare. It translated the core rules of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition into a digital format with remarkable mechanical accuracy. Dice rolls were transparent, positioning mattered, and verticality was not just cosmetic, but fundamental to combat. Players who loved tabletop sessions immediately recognized the logic behind every action and felt right at home, almost as if they were sitting around a table rolling dice with friends and family. Early reception to Solasta 2 demo suggests the sequel understands what players value most. Fans have praised smoother animations, stronger character models, and a more expressive party. Most importantly, the system remains intact. This still feels like Dungeons & Dragons and not a loose adaptation. For many CRPG fans, that fidelity is the entire appeal. While Baldur's Gate 3 is widely separated, it deviates heavily from the core mechanics of D&D, so it'll be interesting to see a more literal translation. I've got to play at least the first half hour of Baldur's Gate 3. It'll blow my mind. Yeah, I don't know if I want to buy a game to play only half an hour, though. And I just don't have a lot of time. That's my downfall, really. Solasta 2 is poised to rival Baldur's Gate 3. Comparisons to Baldur's Gate 3 are inevitable, but Solasta 2 is not trying to out-cinematic Larian. Instead, it is leaning into its strengths. While Baldur's Gate 3 excels in narrative reactivity and character performance, Solasta 2 focuses on tactical clarity and player agency within the rule set. It is aiming to be one of the purest adaptations of Dungeons & Dragons 5.2e, the newest system by Wizards of the Coast. I call it D&D 2024 personally. While the game may not officially be set in the Forgotten Realms, it almost feels like it because the world and mechanics are so intertwined with D&D. Early access is key here. That's a weird phrase. Early access is key here. Baldur's Gate 3 spent years evolving through player feedback, refining systems, rewriting quests, and rebalancing mechanics. That long runway is part of why it launched in such a polished state. With Solasta 2 entering early access in March, Tactical Adventures has the opportunity to do something similar. Player feedback can shape class balance, encounter design, and even story pacing over time. It can help shape Solasta 2 into the second Baldur's Gate 3 of this generation. There's also a hunger in the genre. Players who finish Baldur's Gate 3 are searching for something that scratches that same itch without feeling like a pale imitation. Solasta 2 offers familiarity without redundancy. It respects the dice, the creativity, and the moment-to-moment decision-making that tabletop fans love. That alone positions it as a legitimate rival, even if its presentation remains more modest. Sometimes less is more, and while Solasta 2 may not have the same budget and scope, it can deliver on heart and experience, giving CRPG and Dungeons & Dragons fans another incredible way to experience the game they love. Building on Solasta, Crown of the Magister shows the sequel's strengths. To understand why Solasta 2 matters, it helps to revisit what Solasta Crown of the Magister did right and where it struggled. Combat was its strangest pillar. Encounters demanded positioning, elevation, and preparation. A poorly placed spell or reckless movement could wipe a party quickly. That tension felt authentic to tabletop play. However, the first game faltered in presentation. Character animations were stiff, facial expressions were limited, and dialogue delivered often undercut emotional moments. Storytelling was functional rather than memorable. Players enjoyed the systems but rarely fell in love with the cast. The sequel directly addresses these weaknesses. Early footage and demo impressions point to significantly improved animations and more expressive dialogue scenes. Party members feel more like characters and less like stat blocks. Environmental design also has evolved, offering more detailed locations without sacrificing readability in combat. Another key improvement is pacing. Crown of the Magister sometimes felt episodic, with narrative beats serving as excuses for dungeon crawling. Solasta 2 appears more confident in its storytelling, weaving character motivations and world building more naturally in the progression. Its connection to Dungeons & Dragons remains central. Tactical Adventures continues to work with official rules frameworks, something fans deeply appreciate and that Larian Studios took some liberties with, understandably so. Spell interactions behave as expected, class features are clearly communicated, and dice outcomes remain visible. For players who enjoy understanding why something succeeds or failed, this transparency builds trust. Player reception to the demo reflects cautious optimism. Many fans describe it as a clear evolution rather than a reinvention. This may sound modest, but in a genre defined by complexity, refinement is often the hardest task. As early access unfolds, Solasta 2 has the chance to grow alongside its community, much like Baldur's Gate 3 once did. It may not replace Larian's masterpiece, but it does not need to. By offering a purer, more tactical Dungeons & Dragons experience, it stands ready to become the next essential CRPG for players who crave depth, dice, and deliberate choices. All right, so are you guys interested in Solasta 2? And did you play Baldur's Gate 3? And is that something that, you were missing, is the tactical side of D&D? I've never really understood why everyone gets so excited about a D&D RPG when you could just play D&D. Like, video games are able to do something that D&D cannot do. And I feel like there's a genuine role for video games in entertainment, but there's also a genuine role in TTRPGs. And trying to blend the two has never, in my opinion, and again, I've never played Baldur's Gate 3, so maybe this is why, never really made either one of those feel like, oh, I don't have to do the TTRPG anymore because I've got Baldur's Gate 3, you know? Neverwinter Nights, for a very long time, tried to do that same thing, especially with fan builds and stuff. And it just never, after playing through the adventure of the game itself, it just never really did it for me. There's something about, and even MMORPGs, where you're playing with other people, other real people, and you're engaging in a whole sandbox world. I've played EverQuest when it first came out for years. EverQuest 2, went to Lord of the Rings Online, and I played that for years. But none of them scratched the TTRPG itch. Nothing takes place of sitting around a physical or virtual table with friends and just weaving a story together. There's something genuinely powerful about that experience that you just cannot recreate. Baldur's Gate 3 excited you because it showed what Roll20 could be as a tool for the DM and players. Interesting. That is an interesting statement. I need some qualification on why you feel that way, because you've got me interested there. All right, so are you excited for Solasta 2? Have you even heard of Solasta before? Let me know in the comments. All right, the last story I wanted to talk about, because it is the end of the year, and we've done like top 5 TTRPGs and stuff, but Game Informer put the best tabletop RPGs of 2025 together, and I thought we would sort of examine them and see if maybe your favorite's on here, and if not, why? What took the attention away from it? So, even as we celebrate some of the best traditional board games of 2025, we also want to offer some accolades for some of the most impressive tabletop role-playing releases of the year. This year's selection continues to show the broadening scope of the role-playing hobby, with a variety of amazing games competing against mainstay systems that have held audience attention for years. Check out our alphabetized selection of the best tabletop RPGs of 2025 and share some of your favorite role-playing experiences of the year in the comments below. Cohor's Cthulhu Player's Guide. Love the vibe of cosmic horror, but ready for a break from the familiar early 20th century period melodrama? Cohor's Cthulhu sends your role-playing game group back to the 2nd century Roman Empire, complete with all the trappings of imperial might and varied cultures colliding that you'd expect during that time period. But unlike in the real world, this is known world beset by old and unknowable gods and the malign schemes of their followers. Cohor's Cthulhu leverages Modiphice's now well-established 2d20 game system to significant effect. After multiple successful games, the designers have hit their stride in adapting elements to new settings and situations. In brief, players apply both an attribute and a skill test, leading to a combined target number that the character must roll under. Success in your endeavors leads to momentum, which can be used to add additional dice to a pool when you roll to get additional successes. In short, it's intuitive, fun, and always helps your character's unique features stand out in conflicts. The system nails a unique vibe by embracing the many historical cultures and locations at hand, and then asking the characters from those places to deal with the likes of magic and otherworldly terror. Even without the Lovecraftian elements, this is an excellent way to delve into an Imperial Roman story. Add in those elements of nascent horror, and it becomes something really special. That's interesting to me. I'm a big Lovecraft fan, and I love the idea of Cthulhu. The Call of Cthulhu game itself doesn't, I enjoy it, I like it. It doesn't quite scratch the itch that I like. And so when I think of themes or styles of game or types of game, I don't really go to someone else's version of that, like in this one, for example. I would just go to, well, what is a game system that I love that I could play that world in? And then I'll just make it up myself. I don't understand why we need to buy someone else's opinion when it comes to make-believe. We can just do it ourselves. But has anyone played this? Because it looks and sounds interesting. Let me know what you think, if you enjoyed it or not. I've never played Modiphice's system, their TTRPG system. So the whole 2d20 system, while trying to roll low, seems odd to me. But maybe it works perfectly. I don't know. The next one is Cosmere RPG Stormlight Handbook. Brandon Sanderson's novels have felt overdue for the RPG treatment for some time. I'm confident many home game groups have likely house-ruled their own versions of this setting into familiar existing systems. Brotherwise Games has partnered with Sanderson to bring out an official game that embraces the broad scope of worlds in the author's Cosmere. The first to get the complete treatment is this take on the Stormlight Archive, but we can expect more to follow. After a long wait to see how it all came together, the resulting system does a stellar job of capitalizing on the unique magic systems, lore, and factions that make the Stormlight books so compelling. You can take on the role of a Knight Radiant, partner with your own Spren, and do battle to halt the desolation. For longtime fans, one of the biggest draws is the way the book offers in-canon exploration of the world of Roshar, fleshing out what you already gleaned from the novels. Mechanically, the Cosmere RPG keeps its core systems relatively close to RPG staples like D20 rolls to determine success, but layers in several additional elements that enrich the experience. The D6 plot die comes out to raise the stakes in clutch moments. Opportunities and complications add nuance to the results of rolls. And of course, your characters gain access to surges just like the characters in the books, allowing them to complete remarkable feats that play with the fundamental forces of nature around them, which adds a ton of excitement. In a rich and detailed system, that should precisely fit the bill for anyone enamored of Sanderson's fiction. While it might not be the first RPG stop you've ever engaged with these stories, it should be great fun for anyone who has longed to experience this world for themselves. I've never heard of Brian Sanderson before, and I know nothing about his novels. Am I the only one? You haven't played these games, you've heard of them, of course. Yeah, of course. Off topic, you've been listening to a lot of DL audiobooks lately, and it changed your opinion on the pronunciation of Takesis. Were there any that you've changed since childhood? Hey, ASMR Jess, how you doing? Thanks for tuning in. All right, the next TTRPG they wanted to focus on was The Crooked Moon. Less a game in its own right, and instead an expansion of 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons into a unique setting and style of play, The Crooked Moon garnered much well-deserved praise this year for its brilliant twist on expectation. At well over 600 pages in length, the massive book offers everything you might wish to discover to transport your D&D adventures into a world of folk horror. Avantris has taken a comprehensive approach to refreshing D&D, bringing its chilling twist to familiar fantasy archetypes. We get the chance to play monks who spread plagues with the touch, jester warlocks, and Frankenstein-esque barbarians. Instead of elves and dwarves, you can take on the role of scarecrow-like Harvestborn, fierce werewolf Curseborn, or ghoulish Graveborn. The Crooked Moon also layers in an innovative fate-weaving system that aims to connect the main campaign narrative back to individual character backstories. While The Crooked Moon is a complete setting in its own right, the book also includes a huge 350-page adventure that takes full advantage of the quirks and oddities of the setting the designers have built. Many playgroups are hesitant to abandon the familiarity of D&D rules, but are eager to try something that dramatically changes the surrounding trappings. That's precisely what you get with The Crooked Moon, offering a thrilling excursion into stories of darkness and folklore. That sounds interesting. Yeah. I'm just a big sort of fan of pagan lore. I just think it's really, really interesting. If you ever have looked into like Celtic mythos, it's fascinating stuff. And this looks like it leans into that a little bit. So I think that'd be interesting. Brandon Sanderson is fire. Super nice guy. That's cool. I've never read anything of his, so I might have to do that. All right, next up that they have is D&D Forgotten Realms Heroes of Faerun. The Forgotten Realms has long been the default setting for D&D adventures, but it's been some time since we've had a dedicated release that expands and highlights the setting in its own right. Alongside its DM-targeted Adventures in Faerun release, the new player-centric Heroes of Faerun is a treasure trove of details to flesh out a character and campaign, notable for its smart organization, clean presentation, and top-tier fantasy art. Players get new subclasses, feats, and equipment. Lore enthusiasts can delve into the many deities of the realm, learn about ancient forgotten empires, and investigate wares and equipment unique to specific regions. And if you're looking to get go really down the well of a deep narrative dive, you can join or do battle against one of the many complex factions that have risen to prominence over the life of the setting, each detailed with extensive sections on bringing them into gameplay. We also get a slick new approach to group casting under the banner of circle magic, letting players work together to cast empowered spells that go beyond what any spellcaster can do alone, which can lead to some great role-playing moments. All in all, it's a substantial addition to the game and a robust mix of options to follow up last year's revised Player's Handbook. If you're looking to tell epic tales with the larger-than-life high fantasy characters, there's a reason the Forgotten Realms has maintained its primacy for so long. I think the only reason why Forgotten Realms has any primacy is because that's what Wizards of the Coast puts all their default games into, all their adventures. It's not because it's particularly good, it's because that's what they present, and so players play what they present. It's a totally different framing. All right, next up is Daggerheart. One of the biggest stories in RPG circles this year has been the Critical Role's team move to expand into an original game system that caters strongly to the narrative play style its streams are best known for modeling. After long anticipation, that system was released to the public this year. By most any measure, Daggerheart hit its mark with some clever innovations that encouraged thoughtful role-playing, fun character interactions, and exciting conflicts to play out at the table. The core of Daggerheart is built around an innovative system of hope and fear, manifesting as individual 12-sided dice rolled during encounters. A high roll on the hope die provides future benefits for the player to leverage in upcoming situations, while a higher roll on fear gives the GM tools to complicate the lives of the heroes. In essence, both hope and fear are currencies that may be spent in advance to advance the game. This mechanical system also has obvious narrative consequences, helping everyone in the scene describe and advance what's happening. Players will also sense an especially impactful difference as they progress through levels, as higher tier play helps your characters really become beastly powerhouses that can mow through low-level foes. Daggerheart encourages many features to be handled in a freeform or more abstract way, from combat initiative to the acquisition of treasure. That seems very purposeful, putting the focus instead on big-picture character moments, memorable villain encounters, and inter-party dialogue. The game demands a high level of trust between the GM and players, and for that reason, I think it's especially well-suited to experienced friend groups who have played together for a long time. If that's you, Daggerheart is a really thrilling twist on expectation and an impressive addition to the expanding world of RPG systems. Yeah, yet another TTRPG I've never played. Interested to look into, but anytime you add more tracking devices like hope and fear as dice, and you have to then remember those and apply them to the game moving forward, rather than just doing it on your own as a DM, I feel like it just adds extra elements that are unnecessary and can actually slow down gameplay due to their inclusion. But again, I haven't played it yet, so I don't know. And once again, just like Daggerheart, Draw Steel pops up. Draw Steel Heroes. If your play group is especially interested in the tactical combat side of RPG play, Draw Steel is the new game you should be considering. While narrative depth and storytelling are certainly options, Draw Steel is chiefly a game focused on battles against monsters and making that experience as rewarding as possible. Base level characters in Draw Steel already feel like powerful heroes in their own right, ready to take on major challenges. The action is purposefully built around cinematic descriptions of epic throwdowns. The rules support that approach through a tiered understanding of outcomes based on the final value of your roll. Each ability you use has flavorful and descriptive outcomes depending on where the numbers fall. In an interesting twist on expectations, players build power and capability over the course of a hard-fought battle, rather than diminish as they take damage, creating opportunities for big, flashy, heroic moments that turn the tide of a conflict. Yeah, this is one I definitely want to give a shot, see what it's like. And then I'll probably skip this one. Just Dungeons & Kittens starter set. Whether you're bringing some new or younger into the RPG fold, or you're just looking for something a bit lighter and more whimsical to bring to the table, Dungeons & Kittens is a stellar choice to consider. Dungeons & Kittens sees the party take on the role of kittens who have been exiled from the kingdom of cats, set in a post-apocalyptic world where nature has reclaimed the world after the disappearance of humans. Players collaborate to solve conflicts, confront challenges, and move through brief stories. Full sessions can be as short as an hour. In case you're still not grasping the tone at play here, the characters have access to spells of Meowgic. Oh boy. Character creation and skill checks are approachable and straightforward, and the overall system is extremely rules light. In fact, the starter set itself is played chiefly through narrative-focused books that let the storyteller, the GM, carry new players directly into the action with little prep. While there's enough meat on the bone here to support a lengthy campaign with your longtime gaming group, it is instead while there's not enough. It's instead an incredibly inviting option for players coming to join, wanting a gentle and welcoming gateway into what makes RPGs so fun and funny. And I think this might be the last one. Nope, it's not. Second to last. The penultimate. Exodus, Traveler's Handbook. With an impressive legacy of RPG developers working hard on its creation, Exodus is one of the most anticipated video game RPGs on the horizon. But many may have missed that there's already a tantalizing opportunity to dig into that universe through the available tabletop RPG. In most of the ways that matter, the Exodus TTRPG is a sci-fi D&D system using the same basic rules system, but with unique classes, gear, and other systems to introduce a fascinating universe set in humanity's distant future. Players control a traveler hunting down lost remnants of ancient technology that will let you confront the Celestials, titanically powerful beings that are the distant descendants of ancient humans, having evolved into something entirely new. As a core storytelling and gameplay mechanic, Exodus plays the time dilation effect inherent to fast travel across the stars, creating fascinating interactions for players to explore the table. If you want to stick with familiar mechanics but branch into a futuristic setting while also getting a glimpse of this upcoming video games world, it's worth tracking down the Traveler's Handbook. Interesting. You know, as far as futuristic or fantasy space games, I think you can't get much better than Star Wars, the revised 2nd edition rules, or Saga system Star Wars, or one I've really wanted to try playing and I haven't yet, but I've heard good things about, is the Alien TTRPG that came out this past year. That's really interesting to me. But again, you could just use whatever game system you want and just come up with your own stuff. All right, this is not the last one. Wow. Legend of the Mist, or Legend in the Mist. Billing itself as a rustic fantasy RPG, Legend in the Mist casts players as ordinary villagers in a land of untamed wilderness and dangers lurking beyond the safety of your settlement, and the need to set forth and uncover the mysteries of what is happening in the world beyond the reach of local cookfires. The focus of play is narrative descriptors and situational shifts that affect the way any given conflict or situation might resolve. Dice rolls get modified by factors like whether it's raining heavily, or if you're tired from a long journey, or if your character has an uncanny sense of direction. In play, everything feels like it's aiming to be like a story told around a fire with a strong collaborative focus between players and GM, and an inbuilt goal of layering a broader narrative with discrete character arcs that create dynamic growth over time for everyone. Legend in the Mist was released this year, but only in digital format. The physical book versions are due next year. But even digitally, the art and production values are through the roof, with an evocative and emotional character art style leading the way. If you're looking for a departure into rich storytelling for your experienced group of role players, this one is a winner. You like the bag of puppies idea? Starfinder, 2nd edition, Player Core. After successfully transitioning to Pathfinder's new edition in its fantasy game, Paizo has brought many of the same lessons over into its science fiction game. The new 2nd edition retains much of what made the original so compelling, but smooth over rough edges and simply makes the game more fun to sit down and play. The new Player Core book is a massive tome, offering more than 450 pages filled with great art and extensive play rules. Hundreds of pages and forum posts have been written about the distinctions between Paizo and Wizards of the Coast approach to rules design, but it's enough to know that this new edition of Starfinder offers an exceptionally robust and flexible system that encourages experimentation, both in character creation and progression, and also in crafting adventures and campaigns on the GM side. The new core book moves some things over into other releases, including Starship Combat, and not every class and race from earlier edition is present in this first release, but if you've been waiting to try out this new glorious mix of laser rifles and lightning bolt spells, this new edition is an easy recommendation. I've never played Starfinder, I've never played Pathfinder, though I do now own a lot of the books, thanks to Humble Bundle. And it is something that I've always liked the idea of. Like, I played a lot of GURPS in the military. A buddy of mine he loved GURPS, and so we just played in his games. And what I ended up doing was developing my own modern dark fantasy, sort of urban fantasy world campaign setting through GURPS. And GURPS was a really great game system for all that because you could play any type of game in it. It was one of those many universal role-playing game systems. And there's a bunch of them out there. So whichever one you're comfortable with, by all means, have fun. It seems like Pathfinder is trying to do the same thing with its Pathfinder/Starfinder games, where it's like, well, here's a sci-fi fantasy, and then here's traditional fantasy. Whichever one you like. But really, the game system should be universal rather than two different games. And I wonder, maybe you guys out there can tell me if it is or not, does Starfinder/Pathfinder use the same universal core of game mechanic, or does it use different ones depending on whether it's sci-fi or whether it's fantasy? Let me know. I'd be interested to find out. But do these different games resonate with you this past year? Were there other releases that you thought deserved attention over maybe some of these? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Because quite frankly, again, outside of developing my own game system and campaign fantasy setting, playing games like AD&D, AD&D 2E, D&D 5, and D&D 2024, I just haven't had a whole lot of time to play a bunch of other games. I've like snuck in a couple sessions of Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition with What We Do in the Shadow actual play, but outside of that, I've been really sort of like locked in to this one Wizards of the Coast version / TSR version of TTRPGs. So I've always find it interesting, especially since I've been developing my own DL6 game system, how, what people appreciate about TTRPG game systems themselves and what they look for in the system in order to arbitrate play. Because that's really all the system is supposed to do. It's supposed to be the arbitrator for the story that the DM and the players are crafting together, right? So do you prefer when the game system gets in the way of that and presents you with sort of railroads of which, this is what this character is capable of, you can't go outside of that bounds. This is what this character is capable of, you can't go outside of those bounds. Or do you prefer more of a freeform approach? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about it. In any case, that is going to do it for this episode of OA News. Are you picking up the collector's editions of Legends when they come out? Will you make a one-shot dungeon out of Gingerbread? And finally, what is your favorite TTRPG? Feel free to email me at info@dealsaga.com or leave a comment below. I would like to take a moment and remind you to subscribe to the YouTube channel, ring the bell to get notified about upcoming videos, and click the like button. This all goes to help other Dragonlance fans learn about this channel and its content. And thank you to creator patron Aaron Hardy, producer patron Azrael, and developer patron Chris Androu. This channel is all about celebrating the wonderful world of the Dragonlance Saga, and I hope you'll join in that celebration. Thank you for watching. This has been Adam with Dragonlance Saga, and until next time, Slàinte mhath.